They kicked me out of the company after 15 years, but I made them pay the ultimate price. I had spent 15 years of my life at Nexitech, working tirelessly to build something revolutionary. I wasn't just an employee. I was the head of research and development, the person behind CloudPrime, the company's flagship data processing platform. It was my creation, the reason Nexitech became a dominant force in the tech industry. For years, I worked late nights, sacrificed weekends, and gave everything I had to this company. I believed in loyalty, in the idea that hard work would be recognized. But I was wrong. I should have known better. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. The email that changed everything. One morning, about a month ago, I was sifting through my inbox when an email caught my eye. At first glance, it didn't seem important, just another internal memo. But then I read the subject line, Transition Plan for CloudPrime Ownership After Staff Restructuring. My heart sank. I opened the email, my pulse quickening with every line I read. It wasn't meant for me. It was an internal discussion about how Nexitech planned to remove me from the company. Mia has been here too long. She's great, but we need fresh talent to take Nexitech in a new direction. Once she's out, we'll finalize the ownership transfer of CloudPrime. I felt sick. They weren't just planning to fire me, they were plotting to steal my life's work. CloudPrime wasn't just another project. It was my invention, something I had poured my soul into. And now, they were preparing to erase me from the picture entirely. They thought I wouldn't see this coming. They thought I would just quietly accept it and disappear. But they had underestimated me. The meeting that sealed their fate. For weeks, I said nothing. I continued working as usual, pretending I had no idea what was coming. Then, one Wednesday morning, it finally happened. I received an email from HR, discussion on company restructuring, meeting room B12, 10 a.m. I took a deep breath, pushed back my chair, and made my way to the conference room. I knew exactly what this meeting was about. Inside, Bradley Stokes, the CEO of Nexitech, sat at the head of the table. Next to him was Rebecca Shaw, the head of HR. They both had the same practiced, professional expressions, the kind that barely masked their satisfaction. On the table in front of Rebecca was a sealed manila envelope. I already knew what was inside. Bradley leaned forward, offering me a fake, sympathetic smile before delivering the news. Mia, thank you for coming in. Nexitech is going through some restructuring, and unfortunately, your position no longer aligns with our future goals. Rebecca slid the envelope toward me. This is your severance package, she said in a rehearsed, emotionless tone. We'll need you to clear out your desk by the end of the week. They watched me carefully, waiting for my reaction. They expected shock. They expected anger. Maybe even tears. But I didn't give them the satisfaction. I was already steps ahead. I picked up the envelope, turned it over in my hands, and then looked directly at Bradley. I smiled. I understand completely, I said calmly. Rebecca blinked, clearly surprised by my response. Bradley hesitated for just a second before regaining his smug demeanor. We really appreciate all your contributions over the years, Mia. We hope you find success in your next chapter. Success? Oh, I was about to find a level of success they would never see coming. Because what they didn't know was that I had already filed a patent for CloudPrime, under my name. I had secured an exclusive licensing deal with Orion Systems, Nexitech's biggest competitor. And in just 3 days, the entire industry would know the truth. I tucked the envelope into my bag and stood up. Is there anything I need to hand off to my development team before I go? Rebecca checked her notes, but Bradley waved his hand dismissively. That won't be necessary. We'll take it from here. I almost laughed. They had no idea what was about to hit them. I gave them one last polite nod. Well then, good luck. And I walked out of the room, never looking back. 3 days later, Nexitech was in chaos. Their stock was dropping. Bradley was in full panic mode, screaming at his executives. How did this happen? Meanwhile, I sat back, sipping my coffee, watching everything crumble around them. And this? This was just the beginning. Why they wanted me gone. I had always known that the tech industry favored the young. I had seen it happen to others. Brilliant minds pushed aside for fresh faces, experience dismissed in favor of new energy. But I never thought it would happen to me, not after everything I had done for Nexitech. For 15 years, I had dedicated my life to building CloudPrime, the platform that revolutionized data processing for financial institutions. It was my brainchild, the result of countless late nights, meticulous coding, and problem-solving that no one else could have done. It was the core product that drove Nexitech's success, securing them lucrative contracts with some of the biggest corporations in the world. And yet, in the eyes of Nexitech's leadership, I had become a problem, an obstacle standing in the way of their future vision. The stolen credit. At industry conferences, CEO Bradley Stokes stood on grand stages and took full credit for CloudPrime. He spoke about his team's incredible innovation, barely mentioning me, the actual architect of the technology. At one particular conference, I had sat in the audience as Bradley delivered a keynote speech. A massive screen behind him displayed graphs, statistics, and projections, all built upon my work. He smiled confidently as he explained how his leadership and vision had led to CloudPrime's success. My name was never mentioned. I had felt the sting of betrayal that day, but I had told myself it didn't matter. I wasn't in this for the recognition. I was in it because I loved what I did. But now, looking back, I realized that had been a mistake. My silence had allowed them to erase me. And it wasn't just my name they wanted gone. It was me. Too old for innovation? Over the last few years, I had noticed a shift in the company culture. Younger employees were being promoted faster, often with little experience. New hires, many of them fresh out of college, were given major responsibilities, while I was being pushed to the background. Meetings became harder. I was interrupted more. My input was overlooked. We need fresh ideas, one of the executives had said in a strategy meeting. We need to move in a more modern direction. I had smiled, suppressing my irritation. CloudPrime is already the most cutting-edge platform in the industry, I reminded them. We're years ahead of our competitors. The room had fallen silent for a moment, and then Bradley spoke. Yes, but we need to keep evolving. New talent, fresh minds, that's how we stay ahead. It was then that I fully understood what was happening. I wasn't seen as an asset anymore. I was seen as outdated. Replaceable. It didn't matter that I was the most knowledgeable person in the room. It didn't matter that without me, CloudPrime wouldn't even exist. I had become an inconvenience. The ultimate betrayal. And then, there was the final knife in the back. For years, I had assumed Nexitech had filed for a patent on CloudPrime. It was standard procedure for a company to secure intellectual property. I had never questioned it. But then 3 months ago, I checked. And to my shock, no patent had ever been filed. CloudPrime, the technology one had built from the ground up, was completely unprotected. And that's when I understood their true plan. Step 1. Keep the patent unfiled, ensuring there was no clear ownership. Step 2. Push me out under the guise of restructuring. Step 3. File the patent under Nexitech's name after I was gone, effectively stealing my work without any legal pushback. They had been waiting for the right moment to erase me. But they had no idea I already knew. They thought they were in control. They thought I would walk away quietly. They were so wrong. Because by the time they realized what I had done, it would already be too late. The plan they never saw coming. For months, Nexitech had been plotting my removal, thinking they had everything under control. What they didn't realize was that I had already taken matters into my own hands. They thought I would leave quietly, that I would simply walk away and let them take credit for my life's work. But I had been preparing for this moment long before they ever sent that email. 3 months ago, I had started making my own preparations. I knew that my time at Nexitech was coming to an end, and I refused to let them steal what was mine. So, I did what any experienced engineer would do. I took precautions. Every night after work, I fine-tuned CloudPrime's core algorithms, making significant improvements on my personal laptop, outside of company hours. These upgrades weren't minor tweaks. They were a complete optimization, increasing processing speeds by 43%, making the platform even more powerful than before. And because I was doing it on my own time, with my own resources, Nexitech had no legal claim to my work. The moment I finalized the improvements, I did something that Nexitech never expected. I filed for a patent, under my name. I gathered all my documentation, time-stamped development logs, independent test results, and detailed records showing that every improvement had been created outside of company property. I worked with a top-tier intellectual property attorney who made sure that the patent was airtight. And 2 months later, it was granted. Nexitech thought they had me cornered. They had no idea they were about to lose everything. The next move, striking a deal with Orion Systems. Once my patent was secured, I reached out to Leonard Hayes, the CEO of Orion Systems, Nexitech's biggest competitor. Orion had been trying to outpace Nexitech for years but had never been able to develop a data processing system as powerful as CloudPrime. Now, I had something even better, CloudPrime 2.0, optimized beyond anything Nexitech had ever built. I sent Leonard a simple message: "I have something that might interest you. A game changer." His response came within minutes. "Let's meet." That evening, we met in a private dining room at an upscale restaurant. Leonard was a sharp businessman, but even he couldn't hide his excitement when I laid out what I had: an exclusive, legally protected patent on a technology that could wipe out Nexitech's dominance in the industry. I could see the calculations running through his mind. He knew exactly what this meant. If Orion acquired the licensing rights to my patent, Nexitech would be finished. "What do you want?" he asked, leaning forward, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. I slid a contract across the table. "Exclusive licensing rights to my patent," I said. "A 7-figure signing bonus. Equity in Orion Systems. And the role of Chief Technology Officer." Leonard glanced down at the terms, then back at me. A slow smile spread across his face. "Done." I picked up my pen and signed my name on the contract. In that moment, everything changed. The fall of Nexitech begins. The deal was finalized, but I wasn't done yet. Timing was everything. I knew that Nexitech would formally announce my departure by the end of the week, spinning some PR-friendly statement about moving in a new direction. What they didn't know was that Orion Systems had their own announcement ready to go. We timed it perfectly. The moment Nexitech sent out their internal memo about my departure, Orion Systems dropped a bombshell press release. Orion Systems acquires exclusive rights to groundbreaking data processing patent. Welcomes Mia Carter as new CTO. The tech world erupted. News outlets picked up the story within hours. Industry analysts started questioning Nexitech's future. Investors were nervous. And inside Nexitech headquarters, pure chaos. Their entire flagship product, CloudPrime, was built on my work, but now, they had no legal right to use it. They thought they had gotten rid of me. They had no idea they had just set themselves up for disaster. The final day, calm but ready. Friday morning arrived, and as I walked into Nexitech's office for the last time, I felt a strange sense of peace. The storm was coming, but I was already past the point of anger or resentment. They thought today was my end. They had no idea it was just the beginning. I made my way to my office, ignoring the whispers and sympathetic glances from some of my colleagues. News of my departure had already spread, and while a few people had reached out privately, most had stayed silent. That was how the corporate world worked. When someone was pushed out, others quickly distanced themselves. I sat down at my desk and looked around. 15 years of my life had been spent here, and now it would all fit into a single cardboard box. I started packing, framed photos from conferences, awards for innovation in technology, awards that should have had my name, but were credited to the Nexitech R&D team, and a coffee mug my team had given me last Christmas. As I wrapped up the last of my things, I heard a knock on the door. It was Rebecca, the HR manager. She stepped inside with her usual forced politeness, hands folded in front of her. "I just wanted to check in before you leave," she said, hesitating for a moment before adding, "Do you have anything lined up yet?" I closed the lid on my box and turned to face her. She was expecting uncertainty, hesitation, maybe even regret. Instead, I smiled. I start my new job on Monday. Rebecca blinked. That was not the answer she had expected. Her mouth opened slightly as if she was trying to figure out how to respond. Before she could say anything, a voice came from behind her. A new job. I looked up to see Bradley, the CEO, leaning casually against the doorframe. He had that same arrogant smirk he always carried, as if he was already writing the next chapter of my career, a downward spiral into irrelevance. "And what kind of job would that be?" he asked, crossing his arms. I could hear the smugness in his voice. He thought I had taken some lesser position, maybe a consulting role or a teaching job. In his mind, I was done in the industry. I picked up my box and stood up. "You'll find out soon enough," I said, meeting his gaze. His smirk faltered for just a second before he forced a chuckle. "You think you'll find something better than Nexitech?" he said, shaking his head. "You'll see, there's nothing out there for you at this level." I let the silence hang for a moment before replying, "Just wait." Then, without another word, I walked past him, leaving behind the office, the company, and everything that had once held me back. Little did he know, in just 3 days, his entire world was about to collapse. Monday, Nexitech's worst nightmare. At exactly 7 a.m., Orion Systems dropped the bombshell that sent shockwaves through the tech industry. The press release was short, but its impact was immediate and devastating for Nexitech. Orion Systems is pleased to announce its acquisition of the exclusive licensing rights to the revolutionary CloudPrime technology. This innovation, developed by our newly appointed Chief Technology Officer, Mia Carter, will now be integrated into Orion's next-generation systems. Effective immediately, any company utilizing CloudPrime's processing algorithms must enter licensing agreements with Orion Systems to continue usage. The announcement was everywhere: industry news sites, financial reports, and tech blogs. By 7:30 a.m., the stock market had reacted. Orion Systems stock surged 15%, while Nexitech's took an immediate 7% dive. Investors were scrambling for answers. But inside Nexitech headquarters, chaos was just beginning. 9 a.m. Full-blown panic mode. Bradley Stokes stormed into the executive conference room, his usual smug demeanor completely gone. His face was pale, his hands clenched into fists. The moment he entered, all eyes turned to him. Executives, legal advisors, the R&D heads, all waiting for answers. He didn't have any. Slamming a printed copy of the press release onto the table, he barked, "How the hell did this happen?" The legal team scrambled, flipping through documents, frantically whispering among themselves. No one wanted to be the first to answer. Finally, one of the senior legal advisors cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, it appears that the CloudPrime patent was never officially filed under Nexitech's name." Silence. Bradley's jaw clenched. "What do you mean never filed?" His voice was low, dangerous. The lawyer swallowed hard. "We assumed it was handled years ago, but Mia Carter secured the patent under her own name 2 months ago. She now owns the exclusive rights." The room erupted into chaotic arguments. "That's impossible," one executive yelled. "She was our employee." Another snapped. "There has to be a loophole." One of the attorneys hesitated before responding. Even though she worked here, the improvements she made weren't done on Nexitech property. According to the documentation, she developed them independently, outside of company hours, on her own equipment. That makes it legally hers. Bradley ran a hand down his face, realizing the gravity of the situation. Nexitech had spent years building its dominance around CloudPrime. The company's biggest clients, the financial institutions that powered the industry, relied on it. And now, they had no legal right to use their own flagship technology. 9:15 a.m. The fire spreads. As the panic escalated, Mia's phone buzzed. A message from Miguel, one of her former lead developers at Nexitech. "Holy God, they're losing it in the executive meeting." Bradley just screamed, "How did this happen?" Mia smirked as she sipped her coffee. A second message came through. "They're trying to find a way around it. The legal team is scrambling. This is bad for them, like really bad." She typed back, "Let them scramble." 9:30 a.m. The investor backlash begins. Nexitec's board of directors had called in. Angry investors demanded answers as stock prices continued to plunge. The reality was sinking in. Nexitec had two choices: 1. Negotiate a licensing deal with Orion Systems. 2. Rebuild their entire system from scratch, something that would take years and cost millions. Neither option looked good. By 10 a.m., frantic emails were being sent to Orion Systems' legal team, requesting an urgent meeting. Bradley, who had spent years dismissing Mia's contributions, now had to beg her for permission to continue using CloudPrime. Mia, sitting comfortably in her new corner office at Orion Systems, glanced at her phone as the email request came in. She let it sit unanswered. For now, Nexitec could stew in their own mess. Nexitec plunges into the abyss. The fallout from Orion Systems' announcement was swift and brutal. By Tuesday morning, Nexitec's stock had dropped another 12%, bringing the total decline to 20% in just 2 days. Investors were in a full-blown panic, and financial analysts across the industry were sounding alarms. But the worst was yet to come. The mass exodus begins. At 10 a.m., an internal email circulated among Nexitec's executive team. 2 of the company's largest clients, major financial institutions that relied on CloudPrime for real-time data processing, had terminated their contracts. Both had signed new agreements with Orion Systems. It was the ultimate betrayal, but it wasn't personal, it was business. These companies couldn't afford to be caught in the middle of a legal battle. With Orion Systems holding the patent, Nexitec had no viable long-term solution. Executives scrambled to contain the situation, but it was already too late. By mid-afternoon, sales teams were receiving an influx of inquiries from other clients demanding answers. Some were asking if Nexitec had an alternative to CloudPrime. Others weren't even asking. They were already making arrangements to leave. A domino effect had begun. And the board of directors was furious. Desperation takes hold. At 4 p.m., Bradley locked himself in an emergency meeting with the senior legal team. His usual overconfidence had evaporated. He wasn't the CEO of a powerhouse tech firm anymore. He was a man desperately trying to keep his company from imploding. "How do we fix this?" he demanded. One of the lawyers adjusted his glasses, flipping through a stack of legal documents. "There are only 2 options, sir," he said carefully. Bradley already knew what they were. Option 1. Pay Orion Systems an exorbitant licensing fee to continue using CloudPrime. This would be an admission of defeat and a massive financial blow. They would be at Orion's mercy, with no leverage. It would tank their reputation even further. Option 2. Build an entirely new system from scratch. This would take years and millions of dollars in research and development. By the time it was ready, Orion would already be too far ahead. Investors and clients wouldn't wait. Neither option was good. But one thing was clear: Mia had destroyed them. The email that changed everything. At 6 p.m., as Bradley sat at his desk, staring blankly at the plummeting stock numbers on his screen, his assistant knocked on the door. "Sir," she said hesitantly, "I think you should see this." She handed him a printed email. It was from Mia Carter. Or rather, it was a forwarded message from Orion Systems' legal team. Subject: Licensing Negotiations, Nexitec's use of CloudPrime. Bradley's stomach dropped. They had been officially notified that they were in violation of intellectual property laws. Nexitec was legally prohibited from using CloudPrime unless they negotiated a licensing agreement, one that would undoubtedly cost them millions. For the first time in his career, Bradley Stokes had no power. There was only one thing left to do. Bradley's final plea. At 7:30 p.m., Mia received an email. It was from Bradley. "Mia, it seems there has been a misunderstanding. I believe we should talk and find a way to resolve this in a way that benefits both of us. Let me know when you're available to discuss. Best, Bradley." Mia laughed out loud. The arrogance, the smug superiority, it was completely gone. This wasn't the same man who had dismissed her. This was a desperate man begging for a lifeline. She didn't bother replying. Instead, she forwarded the email to Orion Systems' legal team and continued enjoying her evening. Bradley wanted a conversation? Too bad. The time for negotiations was over. 1 year later, Mia's ultimate victory. A year ago, Nexitech had tried to erase me. They thought they could push me aside, steal my work, and move forward without me. But today, as I stepped onto the stage of the International Tech Innovation Conference, it was clear that history had taken a very different path. The massive screen behind me displayed my face on the cover of Tech Vision magazine, the industry's most prestigious publication. Beneath it, in bold letters, was a title that made me smile. The True Architect of Cloud Prime: How Mia Carter Reshaped the Industry. The applause was deafening. The fall of Nexitech. Nexitech hadn't survived the fallout. The company had spent months scrambling, trying to develop a replacement for Cloud Prime. But with most of their top talent gone and investors rapidly losing confidence, their attempts were futile. By the end of the third quarter, Nexitech's stock had collapsed. Clients had abandoned ship, choosing to license technology from Orion Systems instead. Their board of directors had no choice but to take drastic action. In a last-ditch effort to save the company, they fired Bradley Stokes. The man who had once stolen my work and dismissed me as irrelevant was now jobless and disgraced. But he wasn't the only one. Rebecca, the HR manager who had slid my severance package across the table with a fake smile, was also gone. She had spent months struggling to fill positions left vacant after my team and other key developers had walked out. When the company finally collapsed, she was pushed out along with the rest of Nexitech's leadership. By the end of the year, Nexitech was nothing more than a cautionary tale, a company that had underestimated the wrong person and paid the price. Meanwhile, Orion Systems had taken its place as the industry leader. As I looked across the packed conference hall, I realized something remarkable. This wasn't just about my victory. It was about changing the industry for the better. I stepped up to the microphone and let the moment sink in. A year ago, I was told that my ideas didn't matter, that I was replaceable, that I had no future in this industry. I let my words hang in the air before continuing. But here's the truth: no one can take away what you create. No one has the right to erase your contributions. Always protect your work. Always fight for what is yours. The applause that followed was louder than before. But the best part? The young women in the audience, many of them early career engineers, watching me with admiration, some even taking notes. After the session, a few approached me. "Your story inspired me to document my work more carefully. I just applied for my first patent last month, thanks to you. You proved that experience and intelligence will always beat corporate politics." This was the real victory. Not just proving Nexitech wrong, but helping others avoid the same fate. As I walked off the stage, my phone buzzed. It was a financial report from Orion Systems. Orion Systems officially surpasses Nexitech's peak revenue, becoming the #1 company in the industry. I smiled. Everything I had built, the work they had tried to steal, was now mine again. My name was no longer buried in the fine print. My contributions were finally recognized. 1 year ago, they thought they had destroyed me. Instead, they had made me unstoppable.